It was a rainy Saturday morning in Springfield. Thunder rolled over the clouds like bowling balls on the ceiling of the sky, and Bart Simpson was grounded. Again. He had spray-painted Skinner Eats Boogers across the front of the school and tried to blame Milhouse, but the cameras caught him in full action pose, mid-tag. With no TV, no video games, and Lisa holed up in her room writing some symphony for planetary harmony, Bart did the unthinkable. He went exploring the attic. Cobwebs clung to the rafters like pale fingers. Broken lamps, boxes of forgotten Halloween costumes, old VHS tapes, and crusty Christmas decorations were piled high. That's when he found it. A sealed, dust-caked box marked, Simspro Confidential, for cycle oversight only. Inside, yellowed folders, grainy Polaroids, and unmarked VHS tapes waited like secrets desperate to breathe. One photo stood out. It looked like The Simpsons, but it wasn't. The woman's hair was piled like Marge's, but too perfect, like a wax sculpture. The boy had Bart's spiky hair, but his eyes were glassy, empty, and the man, Homer, had no pupils, just black voids staring at the camera. Bart, heart-pounding, ran to the guest room's old CRT television, popped in the first tape, and hit play. Tape 01. Date, unknown static. Then, a living room, identical to theirs, a family at dinner. They laugh mechanically. The boy, another Bart, looks directly into the camera and says, "I will be mischievous forever." The camera pans slowly. The laugh track glitches. The same moment replays twice. Then the screen cuts to black. Each tape was more disturbing than the last. They weren't episodes, they were recordings, documentation. The family repeating scenarios over decades, sometimes smiling, sometimes lifeless, sometimes falling apart. One tape was labeled, Cycle 14, Instability Warning. It showed a Homer melting into goo in the kitchen while Marge kept stirring a pot of soup, whispering, "We have to smile, we have to smile." Bart's hands were shaking. Underneath the tapes, a worn notebook. In crude handwriting, they reset us every few years, change the stories, the clothes, but we never leave, we never age, we never die. If you're reading this, you're starting to wake up. Cycle 17. Current model, Bart Prime, that's you. Day 2. The mirror doesn't lie. Bart couldn't sleep. He stared at his reflection for hours. It blinked half a second late. He scratched his face. The mirror Bart scratched the other cheek. He screamed. Downstairs, Homer watched TV, chuckling at a rerun of Itchy and Scratchy. But Bart could swear. It was the same one they'd watched 3 days in a row. "Hey, Dad, do you ever get déjà vu?" Homer paused, for just a breath, then grinned too wide. "Ha ha, that's just your brain pooping, boy." Bart backed away slowly. Day 3. Escape attempt. Bart tried to tell Lisa, showed her the tapes. She stared silently, then smiled. "You've been watching the unauthorized episodes, Bart. That's not allowed." He tried to run, packed a bag, took his skateboard, tore down Evergreen Terrace, past Krusty Burger, past the church, past the edge of Springfield. Then he saw it. A smooth black wall stretching endlessly in both directions. No gate, no crack, just a single screen embedded in the center, which flickered on. Return to narrative. You are not permitted to exit. He turned to run, and saw them. His family, Marge, Homer, Lisa, Maggie, standing together, still. Too still. Final day. Reset. Bart woke up in bed, sunlight streaming through the blinds. Marge calling from the kitchen, "Bart, time for school." He blinked. Was it a dream? He looked around. Everything was normal. The smell of bacon, Maggie sucking her pacifier, Homer reading the Springfield Shopper. But when he got to school, Nelson passed him a folded paper. It read, "Don't fight it. We're all stuck. Just play your part." Bart looked up. Nelson smiled, but tears were rolling down his cheeks. Epilogue. At night, Bart sleeps soundly, but in the darkness, just beyond the wall of Springfield, machines hum, tape reels spin, and deep in the hidden core of the simulation, a new label is printed. Cycle 18, narrative deviation detected. Monitor Bart model. He's starting to remember, and if he wakes up again, he might not go back to sleep. Bart was different now. Ever since the tapes, ever since the wall, he saw things others didn't. Time stuttered around him. Apu blinked twice and was suddenly in a different pose. The lunch lady at school offered meatloaf 3 times in a row. The exact same motion, word for word. And then came the glitches. They started small. The same itchy and scratchy short played 4 times in one day. Mr. Burns called him Jimmy. Maggie hovered in the air for a second before falling back into her crib with no one noticing. But Bart noticed everything. He tried to tell Lisa again. We're stuck in a loop, Lise, like we're reruns, but alive. She frowned. I'm writing a thesis about moral relativism in jazz improvisation. Can we talk later? She wasn't hearing him. None of them were. But one night, the door to the attic opened by itself. Bart followed the creaking steps up. The TV was on again. But this time, it didn't show a tape. It showed him. Live feed. Bart standing in the attic, watching the screen. He turned around in terror. The camera wasn't there. Cycle 18 subject, non-compliant. Applying narrative suppression, said a flat digital voice from the speakers. The walls rippled. The attic melted away. He found himself in Krustyland, surrounded by smiling guests. No one blinked. Krusty himself walked toward him, but his skin was peeling, revealing wires beneath. Everything's a rerun, kid, Krusty rasped. Except you. Bart screamed. Elsewhere. Deep Storage 7. 2 shadowy technicians observed a screen showing Bart, writhing on the floor of what now looked like his bedroom. Subject 18 Bart Prime is nearing full awareness, said one. Should we reset the family matrix? The other shook his head. Not yet. Let's see what he does. He's the most entertaining deviation we've had in 30 cycles. They both laughed, a hollow mechanical echo. Part 3. Lisa's lucidity. Lisa Simpson had always prided herself on her intelligence. But lately, her mind felt trapped. Thoughts repeated. Books she'd read felt empty, like the words were just placeholders. Even her saxophone, her greatest escape, played the same notes, no matter how she improvised. She noticed it first in a dream. She was in the school library reading The Republic, but the words rearranged themselves on the page into binary code. 0100110011001100110001. She woke up in a cold sweat, wrote it down. Lisa, it was her name. In binary. Signs of the simulation. Bart had tried to warn her, but she didn't want to listen. Not then. But now? Ralph Wiggum had walked off the school roof at recess and landed perfectly unharmed. Milhouse had repeated the exact same joke about X-ray specs 3 days in a row, even laughed in the same rhythm, and Principal Skinner, he glitched, mid-sentence, froze for 4 seconds, then finished like nothing happened. Lisa began tracking them, writing it all down, timestamps, repeats, dialogue patterns. There was a pattern to the randomness, and all of it pointed to a loop. Bart returns. Late one night, Bart snuck into Lisa's room. His eyes were wild but sharp. You see it now, don't you? She nodded. He handed her something, a tiny earpiece. It blocks the override signals. I found it inside the crawl space, under the house. They don't know I have it. They? Lisa asked. The Watchers, Bart whispered. They're outside of town, watching, adjusting things. They love it when we fight. They love it when I prank. They think I'm funny. Lisa's blood ran cold. You're telling me we're a show? Not a show, a loop, a product. We're the prototype. The family reacts. The next morning, Homer greeted them at breakfast with a crooked smile. Well, if it isn't the Glitch twins, he said, pouring beer into his cereal. Lisa narrowed her eyes. That's not something you'd say. Isn't it? We all have our catchphrases? He stood. Slowly. Too slowly. And yours, Lisa, is, I learned something today. His pupils distorted, pixelated. For a brief second, he had no face. Marge turned from the stove, her voice layered, robotic. Time to get back in character, sweetie. Lisa grabbed Bart's hand. They ran. Journey to the core. Using Bart's map, drawn from dreams, hidden notes, and glitch clues. They found the core access hatch behind the Springfield tire fire. It pulsed with blue light, guarded by two static, looped copies of Chief Wiggum saying, "Move along, folks. Nothing to see here. Move along, folks. Nothing to see here." They slipped past and crawled through a tunnel of cables, echoing laughter tracks and rewound memories. At the end, a vast silver room, screens everywhere, every episode, every variation, endless copies of them, dying, resetting, laughing. And in the center, the master tape, the choice. A screen flickered on, a voice spoke. Lisa, Bart, you've seen behind the curtain, but you have a choice. The screen showed two buttons. Reset, erase. Reset brings you back. Back to school, saxophones, prank calls, and donuts. Safe, familiar. Erase ends the loop. The town collapses. The viewers lose their toy. You vanish, but you win. Lisa looked to Bart. I don't want to be fake, he said, but I don't want you to disappear either. Lisa stepped forward, tears in her eyes, hand trembling. She pressed. Part 4. The erase option. Lisa's hand hovered over the glowing erase button. Her breath caught in her throat. Behind her, Bart nodded. Do it, Liz. Let's burn the whole fake world down. With one final glance at the looping screens, versions of themselves laughing, crying, dying over and over, she slammed her hand down. Erase. For a moment, nothing. Then a low electric hum, like a power station overloading. The screens blinked. One by one, the air grew heavy. Thick. Wrong. Collapse of Springfield. In the heart of town, Ned Flanders stood watering a bush that had already been soaked for hours. Suddenly, the water froze in midair, then shattered like glass. Across Evergreen Terrace, houses began to flicker, their colors reversed. Some blinked out of existence entirely. The sky split down the middle like a torn bedsheet. Behind it, nothing but static. At the nuclear plant, Mr. Burns stared into his monitors. Ah, so the children finally found the failsafe, he muttered, removing a headset and revealing a writhing mass of wires where his skull should have been. Smithers. Begin phase, never mind, it's over. Smithers turned to ash before he could respond. The glitch storm, Lisa and Bart ran through the core tunnel as the world behind them folded. Trees reversed in time. Moe's Tavern imploded with a laugh track. Ralph Wiggum burst into candy, then melted into pixels. In the distance, they saw Marge and Homer, distorted, floating off the ground like marionettes with cut strings. Marge opened her mouth to scream, but a 90s-style TV test tone came out instead. Maggie crawled across the ceiling like a spider, blinking in and out of frames. We have to reach the edge, Lisa shouted. There is no edge, Bart cried. It's all TV, it's all script. The final broadcast. In the center of Springfield, where Town Hall once stood, a massive floating eye opened in the sky. It looked like the O in FOX. A voice echoed over every speaker, TV, and dream. You have chosen non-continuity. Erasure initiated. Viewership nullified. Thank you for watching The Simpsons. The world began to rewind violently, then fracture. Lisa and Bart held hands. If this is the end, Bart whispered, at least it's real. She smiled. Yeah, real and unrepeatable. The sky shattered into static. Everything stopped. Black screen, silence. No music, no outro. Just black. Until one last flicker of yellow light. A single screen, deep underground. A tiny file reboots. Simpson Backup LZ1. Cycle 19. Reconstructing variables. And on a quiet street in a town called Springfield, a baby's pacifier squeaks.